like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules. My life destroyed, life destroyed. Until I walk awake, scream my mind, I shout, the ground shakes. How much can I take? My mind will break. Will it break? Can I take? Can I be your superhero?
Welcome to 12-Gauge Investigator.
In the shadows where the truth hides deep, echoes of the lost and the secrets they keep. Cold cases burn in the back of your mind. We dig through the dark, one clue at a time. This ain't fiction, this is blood, this is truth. 12-Gauge investigative, justice uncaged. We ask the questions they're too scared to say, shining a light where the guilty pray. From killers to whispers, we won't look away.
Good morning, everybody. My name is 12-Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12-Gauge Investigative. This morning, I want to go along a little different avenue since football season's right around the corner. I thought I'd play a movie that I don't even know if it's going to let me play the whole thing, but going to try. I'm going to be commenting on this movie. Well, let me see if I can get the story up because I don't really think they're going to let me play this movie. It's about the life of an individual whose name was Tyler Sash. And he was an outstanding defensive player for the University of Iowa. And he also played for the New York Giants. But the show talked about concussion through the views of NFL players that are past players that had CTE and how the awareness for CTE needs to be more out there than is at the moment. So let me put up here some of Tyler Sash's highlights so that you can see what type of player he was. If you've ever known anybody that's played the sport, you do have an understanding of this violent collision, whether you're going 6 miles an hour or you're going 300 pounds at 6 mile an hour. Something has to give. So it's a very violent sport, no matter what they've done to try to cut down the area of people getting hurt. The helmet don't help. None of that. There's still concussions. There's still brain damage. So here's Tyler Sash and some of his highlights.
And a deflection, nice play defensively in the. Well, he's going to throw it. Bates running around. Being chased. And he'll keep it himself. And he's dropped all the way back in midfield, run down by Tyler Sash. Set him up. I know I'm going to have a tough time running against the big defensive front of Iowa in a short yardage situation. But I want something where my quarterback's approaching and attacking the line of scrimmage to make the. Then they had to burn a timeout after that, or not, out of the shotgun. Lofts it towards the corner, and it is intercepted. And stepping up.
And you know, when it comes to the game, I played for a multitude of years, and even after the collegiate level, you know, the game has always been about the bigger, stronger, faster. And it has to do with the ability to get to the ball quicker. And it has to do with the ability of, yes, he was number 9 right here on defense. He was a safety. It has to do with the individual's attributes on what they can do for their team. And he was known. Oh, it's starting up BS again with the muting. He was a running back in high school, and he was really good. He was also a safety on the defense in high. This is some bullshit. I don't know why it keeps. Let's see if that helps. I don't know if there's just too much stuff going in there. I don't know. But like I was saying, he was known for his viciousness on the field. So let's look at some more highlights.
Out of bounds at the 1 is Tyler Sash. To 3rd and 9. Now you got to get some air underneath it. Yeah, and he tries to get it up there, but look at the coverage by Jordan Bernstein, number 4. All over the receiver, which allows Tyler Sash, the strong safety, to pick it off. Doesn't do a great job on the pickoff and getting upfield, but Iowa will take the ball right now. And what a big hit by number 94, Adrian Claiborne.
The week before that, and here is Rashawn McCoy, and he loses control. And Iowa gets the football.
Wrapped the ball up, and as he wrapped up, he knocked it out of McCoy's hands.
I mean, of course, if you can understand the viciousness of the game, many people say they don't know if they'd let their loved ones play. That is a dilemma that a lot of people face when it comes to the game. They don't really know. They don't know if they're going to let their loved ones play or not because of the viciousness of the game. And in this, and let me show you some of his high school stuff. He's obviously number 33 in high school. The viciousness of the game, I would say that if you're going to have any kind of leeriness about letting your loved one play, I think that the contact at an early age is too much. You know, like I started playing probably in 5th, 6th grade. And, you know, even though you're not very big then, the hits they still cause damage because your brain is rattling around the helmet. So let me show you some of these highlights. I'm going to turn the sound down because I don't want to be copyrighted. He is on the maroon team, and he's number 33. So you can see what type of individual he was. There he is right there. See, he had that ability to, he had that speed, he had that awareness. And many people say that their loved ones should not start playing the game until probably their junior or senior year. And I don't know what your thought is on that, but if you have loved ones, the contact are contacts. You know what I mean? He was just a hell of an athlete. Like, a hell of an athlete. You know, watch him catch this ball. You know, some guys are blessed with that ability and heart, the love of the game, you know? And you can't take that away from them. See, look at him. I mean, he was amazing. Tyler was in his third season with the New York Jets or New York Giants when he started, when he had his first concussion, one per year. And at that point, he started diminishing his play because he got cut by the New York Giants. And it just wasn't the same. Wasn't the same. See, I mean, you could tell he just had the passion for the game. And when you have an athlete such as this on your team, it's hard for people to just let him sit on the bench when he's hurt. You know what I mean? Because why are you going to let an individual who had this kind of ability sit on the bench? You know? Let me see if I can find some NFL stuff. Oh, he was also a basketball player. He's also a basketball player. Let me show you. This dude was an all-around athlete. And he was good at every sport that he played. Wasn't like he was mediocre. He was great. And his family was talking about how they thought that he was going to go and play professional basketball rather than football. And he chose football, even though his junior year he almost stopped playing because of, you know, he just didn't have the heart for it. His love was basketball. And he continued to play football and obviously made it all the way to the pros. But, I mean, there's not very many people that have that natural ability. Look at this. Have that natural ability just to play the sport. You know, some people have to practice hours and hours and hours before they're able to have that type of finesse in their game. And he just naturally had it. You know, some people are just natural athletes. You know, look at that. Dropping those threes like it ain't nothing. I mean, you really learn at an early age the finesse of a person that is naturally gifted because they just stand out. And you can tell that this guy had it because he just stands out. He's all about the game. Football, basketball, you know. Good morning, everybody who's here in the chat. Thank you for being here. I'm telling the story of Tyler Sash. He died, I believe it, 30 something. Not from his CTE was so bad that he'd started forgetting things. He was repeating things. He he just was exhibiting all the CTE signs, and once you start, I think this was one of the vicious hits right here that one of the concussions happened. Let me show you. He is on a giant team, which is a white team, and he is number 39. So watch number 39. He's right here at the bottom of the screen. This is where one of the concussions, right there. One of the concussions happened right there. And that put him out his first year, which, if you've ever played the game, that looks like a cheap shot, but it's really not. It's really not. But that type of hit, it'll take you out for sure. I mean, it's vicious. Hold on a second. Let me show you this. Like I'm saying, and he passed away due to his mind being so discombobulated and not remembering things. And he had told his mother the day before that he had such a splitting headache and that he was in so much pain. These headaches and everything, the loss of memory, the anger, the anxiety, and all that stuff that goes along with it. Well, he told his mom the day prior that his head felt like it was splitting wide open. And he went home and she went to check on him that morning. She let his dog out. She went to, let his dog out. She put the dog back in. And later on, he was supposed to meet somebody, one of his family members, and he never showed. So she went back over and she found him dead. The prognosis of the autopsy was that he died from an overdose of painkillers because obviously he did remember how many he probably took, and he passed away. And let me show you this. I don't know if it has music.
The tragic story of the NFL's most forgotten yet most severe case of CTE ever recorded. This is also perhaps ever more amounted to the fact that the NFL has continually not supported the idea of researching CTE until later after this man's death. Born and raised.
Also, if y'all remember Aaron Hernandez, which he was the individual that was found of murder. He used to play for the New England Patriots. He was a tight end, and he also had severe CTE, which, there's been a lot of NFL players that have ended their lives because they have not been able to handle the onset, the feelings and the symptoms that CTE gives. So there's been a lot of individuals, Junior Seau, Dave Durison, they've ended their lives because of the effects of CTEs.
Raised in the small town of Oskaloosa, Iowa, Tyler Sash excelled in football and basketball in high school, where he became a talented athlete while also smashing books and All-American honors in 2 different sports while playing for his high school team. Being a true Iowan, he chose to stay home as he dreamed of as a kid and attended college at the University of Iowa, where he became a Hawkeye. And he also shined on the field, recording a total of 109 total tackles, 1 sack, and an average interception rate of 30.2 while playing at Iowa from 2008 to 2010. By 2011, he got drafted to the New York Giants with several injuries, prescribed on prescription pain medication for other injuries that he had in high school, college, and in the pros. And he had a total of 3 concussions up to this point with this.
So let me ask you, chat. I don't know if you have young ones, or maybe you're watching this on replay later on. Maybe you're not even a member or a subscriber to my channel, but would you allow your young child to play this sport? Would you allow your young child to play the sport of football? And if so, at what age would you allow them to start playing tackle football? Because CTE is a degenerative disorder which puts too much protein into the brain and it starts killing it off. So Texas says yes, he would. At what age would you allow your son to play? Would you let him play from pee-wee on up, or would you pretty much let him start playing in high school? Mine started at 8 or 9. Okay.
3rd in the NFC Championship. He, however, continued to help the team on defense and carried the Giants to win the Super Bowl in Indianapolis versus the New England Patriots in 2012. While making him a community superstar, something much darker was lying inside of him. By 2013, he had recorded 5 concussions, had constant injuries, 2 severe injuries. The Giants let Sash go. By that time, he was already living a comfortable life with his daughter and his wife in Iowa. When he came back home to start his new life, he would hesitate to tell his family about his inner demons. His wife reported that he was constantly Googling tips on how to deal with a head concussion. He also was forgetting things like keys and wallets. And his family started seeing him drift slowly away from reality. He was arrested once in 2014 after being released from the NFL for public intoxication, where he was restrained and then tasered after leaving his motorcycle, which brought up new red flags as to how his life was spiraling down even more. Tragically, this is how the story of Tyler Sash begins to end, because his demons would later catch up. On September 7th, 2015, the night before his passing, his mother found Sash sleeping in his family couch in his home in Iowa. But little did she know, by the time he was taking a nap, he subsequently was gone from this planet. The next day, he passed away from an accidental overdose, as later investigated by police and autopsy reports. And when his brain was donated to science to help other athletes that were going through CTE at a research center, they found that he had equally or worse CTE as former NFL star Junior Seau, who also died from one of the worst cases of CTE ever recorded by an NFL player. In the end, this is an emotional story because
I asked the Lord, if my son hadn't have played football, would he still have died on that day? I love football. I'm not trying to ruin football for anyone. It's so much a part of the culture of America. My son went the football route. He could have played basketball. It wouldn't have cost him his life.
And of course, football is just one of the many violent sports that people play. You know, there's a lot of violence in American culture. You know, can you imagine being a NASCAR player? You know what? Or not a NASCAR player, but a NASCAR driver, you know, and hitting the wall at however fast they go around those turns. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that the hockey players, the hell, can you imagine being a baseball player, having that ball hurling at you at 90 something miles an hour, you know? So football is just of the many one of the many, but CTE seems to be a untalked about um situation that happened to professional athletes and amateur athletes. The study said that, you know, in high school, going into college, they did a study of 20 people, and 19 of those 20 people had the early signs of CTE. That's scary. And this is Tyler Sash giving an interview here.
I'm talking with New York Giants Tyler Sash, and you had a gift for the governor. What did you give him?
I didn't know if he was going to put it on, but I'm glad he did. I gave him a New York football hat, so pretty excited about that.
What did the governor have to say to you, and what did you say to Mr. Branstad?
We just talked a little bit about the season and talked to him a little bit about what he's doing throughout the state of Iowa, and I appreciate all his work that he's running around like a madman, visiting cities by city. So it's pretty cool to just get to sit down or not sit down, but stand here and get 5 minutes to talk to him. So it's pretty cool.
Sierra, I heard from you just recently about winning the big game, and then about your foundation and about coming back to Oskaloosa. How's the foundation doing since you're in town?
It's doing well. You know, I'm in the process right now of we're trying to coordinate a event for a little boy from the Oskaloosa area. I don't know if you know him, TJ Guma. He's 9 years old, and he has some findings on his brain, and they're not sure what's going on with that. So I'm going to try to organize an event where we can just help him out as much as I can, just like.
And he was a hell of a philanthropist, you know. He was all about the kids. At one point, he took a game ball and he gave it to, or not a game ball. He, while he was at Iowa, he asked the cheerleaders what they were doing with those shirts, and they told him that they'd throw them up into the stand, you know, for the fans. But he took a couple and he went and handed them to a couple individuals that sat in the wheelchair department, you know. What I've researched and what I've heard about this guy is he was a great person off the field, you know, as he was on the field, which is generally the the situation, you know. There are a lot of great athletes that do a lot of good things for the community, and not necessarily all of them are women beaters and all this other stuff. But you have to ask yourself, is how much does that lifestyle of their job contribute to the aggression and everything that goes on later on in life? Not only abusing drugs and alcohol most of the time, you know, it's just terrible how these professional athletes, they put their body, minds, and souls through the ringer to entertain people. And I am a hell of a football fan. I mean, I can't wait for it to start. But, you know, as far as stopping people from playing the game, I think it's a personal choice. I mean, I played the game and I, I had a couple concussions, and I don't know how any of the any of the stuff that I did at a young age is going to affect me later on in life. I mean, at this point, obviously, I do notice some things, but not as severe as what they talk about in in this story and some others that I've I've heard.
When the one we had at the mall for Fish Evelyn. So just any way I can help out, and just getting involved and giving back to the community or people in the community.
What's it like being back in Oskaloosa?
I like it. It's obviously by choice. I could be about anywhere in the United States, but I love coming back to Oski. It really puts things into perspective when I come back. Being in New York, don't get me wrong, I love being in New York, but it's a nice change of pace to come back to Oskaloosa, and it doesn't take me an hour and a half to go to the grocery store and get home just driving. So, it's nice to be home.
But work continues, just in a little bit different fashion now that you're back.
Yeah, definitely. Still working out, still staying in shape. I got to stay in shape because every year there's guys that come into the league that they're trying to take your job. So you got to stay on top of your game, or you're not going to be there for long. So definitely still working out.
I've seen you at the Pack a little bit. Are you doing something there?
I just went over there. I like to play basketball. Basketball was my first love. Still love to play basketball. Helps with quickness and speed and stuff like that. So I'm just playing basketball there right now. And like I said, we're trying to coordinate an event. I don't know if it's going to be at the Pack or it's going to be at the mall or where at, but for TJ. So at some point, I'm sure you guys will hear about that.
You mentioned basketball. When did you decide football full time? How long ago? How many years ago was that?
Well, my sophomore year, not a lot of people know this. My sophomore year, I told my dad I'm not playing football this year, and he goes, "No, you're gonna play." He basically made me play one more year, and he's like, "You're gonna play, see how you like it." And Coach Schumacher at the time moved me up to varsity, and I don't like talking about being all state or all this, whatever, but I ended up making all state, and I was like, all right, this isn't so bad. And I guess I kept playing with it, and it turned into something where I'm where I am today, and it's pretty crazy. Last 5-6 years, however long it's been.
Any elbows from the dad since that time?
Oh, he always gives me a hard time. He's always telling me what I need to work on, and he never lets me settle. So that's what dads are for, At the same time, he's very supportive of me, and he's always keeping me motivated to do things.
I mean, that's interesting that he said that, he was going to choose basketball, but, his dad told him to try it out one more year and he got off state, which is, man, that is a hell of a feat. It's interesting how some of these stories go. It really is. He was not, football was not his love. He was just great at it. Basketball was his love, and that he went toward basketball. We don't know how it would have differed his situation, or if he would have had the same outcome. It's tragic all the way around. But I don't think there's anything they can do. Oh, I forgot about wrestling. Forgot about wrestling as well. Wrestling's another one. There's a lot of sports that are very violent, and he was arrested because he was going on a scooter after he left a bar with his buddies, and the cop said that the only thing he was going to do was just tell him he needed to put some lights on that scooter, and due to his mental capacity, he freaked out and ran from the cops, and that is, he got tased and everything else, and just sad all the way around. Oskaloosa. I don't know if any of y'all know where Oskaloosa is, or if you actually live there or whatever. But he was a hometown hero for sure. And it's just tragic. So I wanted to get on here and kind of give, a little understanding of the severity of CTE. Let me see if I can find a video that explains it, because I mean, a lot of times people hear about it but really don't know what it is. That way you'll know what CTE is whenever you hear about it. Because I've heard about it a lot and never really understood it. But here's a video that kind of explains it a little bit. Hope you are enjoying this. If you are, please hit the like, share, and subscribe. Um, I know it's not true crime, but sometimes true crime does intermingle with educational stuff. So here is a little bit about what CTE is.
They're all at risk for CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a brain disease caused by repetitive hits to the head. It can be deadly, and it's much more common than you think. Here are the facts. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a progressive neurodegenerative brain disease. That means symptoms don't begin until years after the injuries and can often get worse over time, causing dementia. And here's the kicker. You can only find out if you had it if you are dead. When your head gets hit, nerve cells are damaged and a protein called tau gets released. Repeated hits to the head lead to more tau. When nerve cells are damaged, tau comes off and starts clumping up, becoming tangled. Tau can kill brain cells if enough builds up over time. High levels of tau in brain fluid are linked to poor recovery and neurodegeneration after head trauma. The origins of the disease trace back nearly a century ago when it was labeled pugilistic dementia, a syndrome that was originally studied in boxers. Forensic pathologist Dr. Harrison.
And that's another sport that I forgot. I forgot about boxing, UFC, all those sports that you take hit to the head. Of course, things are going to happen. You know what I mean? Oh, thank you for that, Melissa. I knew there was a movie, but I couldn't remember who was played in it. Thank you for that. Movie about this subject called Concussion with Will Smith. Okay. Yeah, y'all check that movie out if you haven't already. It's a topic that needs to be discussed a lot more, because not because you got to end these sports, but they have to do something to make them just a little safer. You know what I mean? I don't know how you could do that, but but just for the love of the game sometimes. I think that if they would have had us wearing those skull caps or whatever, I still wouldn't have wore them things, because they make you look goofy. And you know, a lot of the sport when you're young, it's about the pageantry of it. It's about the uniforms. It's about the cleats. It's about, the headband and the wristband and the taping up yourself and, the messages on your cleat. It's about the pageantry and people admiring you because you're able to do something that not everybody's able to do.
Stanford Martland described the disease in 1928 through his study, a journal of the American Medical Association. He noted tremors, slowed movement, confusion, and speech problems being typical of the condition. The disease was brought up again in 1949 by a British neurologist who published a study in a paper titled Punch-Drunk Syndrome, Chronic Traumatic Encephalopathy of Boxers. But it later became clear that the disease was appearing in athletes who never donned a pair of boxing gloves. CTE appeared in the limelight in the early 2000s when Nigerian neuropathologist Bennett Amalu worked on a case with former Hall of Fame NFL player Mike Webster, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. After retirement, Webster began to show signs of depression, extreme mood swings, and eventually dementia. Footage from the documentary League of Denial shows Webster being interviewed and stopping mid-sentence.
The things we do to one another, okay? Hell, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just tired and confused right now. That's why I say I can't really, I can't say it the way I want to say it. I could answer this real easy at other times, but right now I'm just tired.
Webster had CTE and was the first NFL player diagnosed with the degenerative brain disease. Amalu's discovery led researchers to study the potential link of brain trauma in football and CTE further. In 2017, neuropathologist Anne McKee released her own study in the Journal of American Medical Association. McKee and her researchers studied 111 former NFL players whose brains were donated for research and discovered that 110 of them had CTE.
We're really starting to understand the earliest manifestations of this disease. And of course, our main objective, our overarching goal, is to help the people that are living.
So 111, 110 had it. So that should tell you how prevalent this is. But are people going to stop doing what they're doing just because of the long-term effects? I don't think so. I don't believe so. Especially with all the money that's thrown around these days in college. All the stadiums that are built in high school, all the pageantry that goes along with it, it's not going to stop. It's just going to intensify. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Texas.
Be able to diagnose this disease during life so we can bring some hope and optimism to these people. If we can diagnose it, we can also monitor it, and we can test different therapies to see if they're effective in treating the disease.
In the early stages of CTE, researchers found the most common cause of death among those with mild levels of CTE was suicide. One of the highest profile examples was the case of Aaron Hernandez, a former New England Patriots star who was convicted of first-degree murder in 2013. He murdered Odin Lloyd, a former friend who dated Hernandez's fiance's sister.
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
Madam Foreperson, you're committed to the MCI Cedar Junction for the term of your natural life without the possibility of parole.
I knew he was going to have CTE because you just don't get that amount of damage without seeing the changes under the microscope.
And while in prison, Hernandez committed suicide. For those in later stages, dementia and Parkinson's disease was the leading cause of death.
And it's estimated that, the average football player gets between hundreds to 1,000 hits per season. If you play for 10 years, you can imagine that's 10,000 hits. That's what we're trying to get more awareness about. We need to limit the amount of contact in football and collision sports.
Among 27 participants that were found to have mild CTE, 26 had behavioral or mood issues before their deaths. Of the 84 deceased players with more severe cases, 89% had behavioral or mood symptoms.
We're over 500 brains. I think it's about 550 at this point. It may not be quite that many. And we're well over 360 with the diagnosis.
I just don't see how they're going to make the game less contact. I mean, it's already almost like flag football or two below. I mean, they don't hit. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't slam them down. You can't do anything. I mean, pass interference is out the wazoo. I mean, any contact that you touch the other person, it's almost like it gets a flag. So it's like, I don't know how they're going to make it less contact. I mean, honestly, if it gets worse, because it's like there's more injuries with your arm tackling than there is with you actually hitting somebody and wrapping up. There's a lot more injuries that way. You're exposing your whole body minus just hitting with your shoulder or something. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'll probably quit watching if it gets lighter. I won't watch because it's already so watered down. I can barely stand it. I mean, you can have any kind of brain injury or you can have any kind of consistent head trauma, and it could start this potential thing like abusive people. I mean, people that are in domestic violence situation. I wonder if they have CTE long term based on getting hit in the head by somebody. I mean, it's any kind of head trauma.
Of CTE.
It's not just professional athletes or military soldiers that are being affected. Younger athletes are at risk for long-term consequences for later in life. Scientists have found that on average, playing tackle football before the age of 12 would lead to cognitive issues 13.39 years earlier. Behavioral and mood problems would arise 13.28 years earlier for those who began to play at 12 or older. Not only are young individuals at the forefront of CTE research, animals prone to brain injuries are also being studied as well. Gregory Meyer, Director of Research in Sports Medicine at Cincinnati's Children's Hospital Medical Center, offered his take in this New York Times article. Bighorn sheep ram their heads into each other and woodpeckers slam their head against trees thousands of times a day. Meyer's research has suggested that both of these animals' brains are well protected against concussions due to a phenomenon called the bubble wrap effect. Their brains are naturally protected with mechanisms that slow the return of blood from the head to the body, increasing blood volume that fills their brain's vascular tree. Outside of football, other sports have introduced concussion protocols. They're designed to keep players who may have sustained a traumatic brain injury from returning to the game.
NFL players no longer practice as much in pads during the week and during training camps. The NFL has changed rules in terms of where a player can be hit, whether you can use your head as a battering ram. You no longer can, but that used to be a staple of NFL defenses.
While safety reforms have been made to player concussions, NFL officials and college football coaches have often been criticized for questioning the research between football and CTE.
It's clear that there is a link, so why they're denying it, I don't know. But there will come a time, hopefully sooner rather than later, that we will have a living diagnosis. And at that point, leagues will no longer be able to say, oh, we still need more science. The science will be there.
Legislators across the U.S. have offered bills.
Well, they've also made everything, like she just said, everything's lighter. You don't have to wear the pad that you used to have. The linemen are wearing like wide receiver pads, it looks like. Their helmets are not as thick. I mean, it's all about the speed of the game. The faster you are, the bigger you are, the more you get paid. So, it's about what are you delivering? What are you able to deliver entertainment-wise versus, are people really going to watch the game? It's kind of like the running game is not as prevalent as it used to be. It's more about passing. Because passing is more exciting than just sitting there watching two teams run the ball at each other for 60 minutes.
That would ban tackle football before the age of 12, but they've seen little traction becoming law. And well, the push for legislation comes as youth tackle football has seen a decline in participation. Interesting enough, it's a decline that's been seen at a regional level.
The fears about CTE and the fears about the long-term damage to a child's health is a concern for any parent. And we're seeing parents ask more questions. We're seeing parents raise more concern until we have something like a living diagnosis where then we'll be able to say, okay, this person is predisposed genetically, or, we can monitor a teenager as they play.
That's pretty interesting. And I'm going to show one more. That way you're able to actually really understand what it does to the brain, because a lot of times people think it's just a brain hit, and it's really not. It's over time what it does to the brain.
To talk about football without mentioning concussions. Why? A mounting concern over a disease called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, more commonly known as CTE. In the world of medicine, CTE is a relative newcomer. In football, we just learned about it 10 to 15 years ago. Here's what we can say. It's a progressive degenerative brain disease. It is like Alzheimer's. It can start with memory loss, mood swings, and difficulty in concentration, developing into progressive dementia, even possible thoughts of suicide. But unlike Alzheimer's, CTE can also result in significant aggression and lack of impulse control. The big difference, symptoms tend to begin much earlier in life, closer to your 40s instead of your 60s. In both diseases, there's no known cure. Researchers believe there's only one way to get CTE, and that is repeated hits to the head. What happens is that you get a buildup of an abnormal protein called tau in the brain. Scientists do know both the location of the tau and how much tau in the brain determines the symptoms you might exhibit. But scientists don't yet have a magic number of hits that results in CTE. It also isn't known who exactly would develop CTE. There are some players who take many hits and never develop symptoms. Factors like genetics and age of exposure to the trauma could play a role. How do you know if you have CTE? Just because you have symptoms doesn't mean you have the disease. In fact, as things stand now, you can only be diagnosed for sure after death. Scientists are researching how to diagnose in living people. A prominent group of researchers have found over 90%.
And that's interesting that they can only diagnose you after death. I mean, that's wild. 90% of former NFL players have developed CTE. 90%. Not 30, not 20, not 10, 90. And look at the area which it affects.
Of former NFL players have developed CTE. But remember something important here. The number could be so high because of something known as selection bias. That means the brains that were studied were from people who worried that they had CTE. Also, it's not just football players that need to be concerned. Boxers, soccer players, people in the military, anyone who's exposed to constant head trauma can develop it too. Lately, it's been...
So there you have it. So that's a very genuine. So what do y'all think about that? You think it's interesting? Do you think it's ever going to get better? Do you think that they're going to find a cure for it? Do you think that they're going to continue to water down the sports because of these CTE situations that happen after people retire? Because after you retire, really you're not the league's problem anymore. You know what I mean? So as I believe that as long as people are exhibiting these while they're still playing, they're not going to really worry about it. The same with other sports. Once you retire, it's on you. You know what I mean? Kind of like thanks for the memories. Thanks for your your eagerness to entertain, and we paid you a lot of money for this if you were good, or even if you're not good, you still get paid pretty well. I think a ball boy in the NFL makes $125,000 a year to be a ball boy. That could be a little inflated, but that's a lot of money. Yeah, you're right, Melissa. Too much money is being made. Nothing will really change because you stop, you start changing things, the money's going to stop flowing. Just like what I just said, I'm going to quit watching if it gets more watered down. So the TV contracts are part of the money train, you know. So if people stop watching on TV, then it's going to affect the game. And honestly, you throw enough money people at people, the money's going to overshadow their rational decision making in the present. They're not going to be thinking about the future. They're young adults. They already feel invincible. So you don't start noticing all these things till you're older. I mean, I have some aches and pains that I bet have been manifesting themselves since I was young, you know. So I just thought I'd get on here for a little bit and discuss this because I believe that it's necessary. So if you watch this on replay, let me know what you think. Please be respectful and give me your opinion. Thank you so much for being here today on this Sunday. Y'all have a wonderful day, and football season's upon us fairly shortly. I can't wait. Till next time, Maestro, cue that music.